good, but I think he might be better than people think.
Wow.
Clearly, he's a D2 guy from Shep. Like, I get all that.
Wow.
Can't be worse than Justin Fields. I'm joking. I know you're a Bears guy. Hey, what's up? Welcome to the Showdown Strategy Show right here on the Stochastic YouTube channel. Well, do we have a game for you today? Good thing you're here because this one is insane. First of all, Trevor Lawrence, he's questionable. Said he's dramatically or rapidly improving, but it's only been a few days since he sprained that knee. Then you've got Derek Carr. Matt's just, behind the scenes today. Not a big Derek Carr fan. You'll find out why in a little bit. But we got Jags 1-point dogs against the Saints. 40-point total for Thursday night football, only to be seen on Prime. God, I bet they regret that decision. Anyway, I'm Dave Loughran at Lafayette_D on the Twitters, joined by Matt Gajewski at Matt_Gajewski. What's up, brother?
They're definitely going to regret it because now guys that don't want to pay up for Prime are going to be forced to watch some actual good football between Marshall and James Madison, as well as Rice and Tulsa. So, bad decision on the NFL's part, but that doesn't mean we don't have a showdown. We do. It's going to be awesome. I like the greasy games for Showdown, and this is about as greasy as they come.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if it's, yeah, I guess you could say that. I guess what's your definition of greasy?
Low total, teams that aren't really exciting. Normally Jacksonville is, but the Trevor Lawrence injury news makes me a little nervous. Like, the Saints are about as greasy as they come for a team. Like, this team stinks. They play like the World War II offense with Derek Carr slamming Alvin Kamara into the back of the O-line 25 times. Can't throw the ball downfield. Chris Olave is just wasting away. Offensive line sucks. Everyone's hurt. Can't protect. Derek Carr's getting murdered back there. Like, have they done anything good? Missing field goals against the Packers to win games. Like, this team stinks. What are they doing?
Which sucks because the defense isn't bad at all. It's a pretty strong defense.
For sure.
That's what probably makes this game even greasier, as you would say, because the defense is legitimately good. You know, you look at last week against Houston, it's not like the defense was terrible. The offense stunk again and then just keeps putting Houston in good field position. Don't get shout out CJ Stroud. He's been fine and all that good stuff. But the defense is not to blame for pretty much anything this season. Even the games, even the games they lose. Look at the games that they lose. What was it? Tampa beat them 20-6 or something, 26-9. Sorry. But yeah, they blanked the Patriots. They gave up 20 points to the Texans. 18 points to the Packers, and they lost that game. 17 to Carolina, 15 to Tennessee. The defense is not the problem here. Makes the game even weirder because it's going to be tough. First of all, if Lawrence plays, who knows if he's going to be at 100%. I'm not saying he's going to be inoperable, but if he's at less than 100%, you're going up in a pretty tough matchup as well.
Absolutely. I don't think the problem's the defense at all. I think the problem is your GM, who went and watched Derek Carr film and is like, this guy's the answer. We can win a Super Bowl with this guy. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence, if he's fully healthy, they should slaughter this team. They have a high-powered offense, multiple awesome skill position players, pretty decent offensive line. No faith in the Saints, but that's a pretty big if and a pretty big ask. Definitely the biggest talking point of this slate, I think, will be, do we include Trevor Lawrence? How healthy do we think he is? And then he has a trickle-down effect to all of the other pass catchers. The status of Trevor Lawrence, that's going to affect Ridley, Kirk, all the pass catchers. So that's huge.
I really do wish that Jameis Winston was the QB this year for the Saints.
This team sucks. They're going to win maybe 8 games. If they get into the playoffs, you're looking at a first-round exit outside of something crazy. Your team is boring as hell. Maybe you lose 1 or 2 more games with Jameis Winston, but you have a more fun product. You're going to get a better draft pick. Like, this is a no-brainer. I don't understand how you can't understand this. You're losing to the Packers.
I know. And they had a 17-0 lead in that game too. Dude, I don't know what to make of it. I can tell you this much. The NFC South is pretty rough. Like there's not a single great team. The Panthers are 0-6, Saints and Falcons 3-3, Bucks are 3-2. Saints could still win the division, and that just tells you all you need to know. Anyway, happy to have you guys with us. Take a single. We're almost at 50 thumbs up already, almost 50 likes. Thank you guys. If you haven't done so yet, take 1 second out of your morning. Glad you're spending the morning with. It's early for some people. Jordan was up. What time you get up? Like 5:15 today or something? All right. Doing God's work over there, brother. Matt was probably up around 5 o'clock again.
Yeah, I was up at 4:30.
4:30. What time did you go to bed?
9:30.
Okay.
Reasonable.
Okay. Strong 7 hours.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
I was up at 6:30. That's about as good as I get. But my point is, people watching from everywhere. You know, you're on the West Coast. Take a second, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. And if you're listening or watching after the fact, leave a comment down below. And don't forget, guys, all of our stuff, you can find it in podcast form. Everything, including our podcast exclusive content. I've mentioned it throughout the week. Ben and I did one on Tuesday. It's a full out week 6 review, looking over all of the top lineups using our post contest simulator and then breaking down the slate from a single entry 3 max, just game theory standpoint. I promise, if there's nothing else on this channel that you watch this week or listen to, check that one out. It's 30 minutes long. I promise it's going to be valuable content to you. Only found in podcast form. So Apple Podcast, Spotify, whatever, but we got you. All right, let's dive into this one. Jaguars. Yeah, so we're going to just have to operate under the assumption. And by the way, DraftKings did preemptively price up CJ Beathard, which is good. But we're going to have to operate under the assumption that Trevor Lawrence is playing. The problem is now, Matt, it's twofold. Like he could not play, and then we have a better understanding. I think the worst understanding we would have of this slate would be if he does play and we don't know how healthy he's going to be, because like we both said, Saints do have a good defense. He is dealing with a sprained knee. So if he's not mobile on dropbacks, if it's a struggle, if he gets pressured and is incapable of moving outside of the pocket, maybe I'm reading too far into this, but it does feel like there's some wrinkles here, even if Trevor Lawrence is on the field.
I agree. And it seems like that's the situation we're going to get. He's outright just come out and said he's playing. He's been limited in practice twice. So it's not like we're dealing with DNP here. He's been practicing for the last 2 days in a limited fashion, but quarterbacks do this all the time. So I do think we see Lawrence. I think his rushing equity is basically erased. Not that it's that big to begin with, but he can run a little bit. He at least can move the pocket, pick up yards with his legs when he needs to. So I think it should be a downgrade in his projection. But at the end of the day, on a showdown slate like this, I'm still running into the problem of what alternatives do we have? The only other captains I feel strongly about are the other Jags skill position guys in Alvin Kamara. The slate's not particularly priced. My question to you is, like, what do we think this does to Lawrence's ownership? If it comes in pretty low, that's where I would have interest in starting to target him. And I think right now, according to our tools, he's a little over-owned at captain, a little under-owned in the flex. I think this will definitely change throughout the day, depending on the news we get. Of course, live before lock, watch that. It'll be the most up-to-date news, but tough situation to break down, man.
Very tough. Ian Rappaport, just an hour ago, said Trevor Lawrence confident that he'll play tonight versus Saints.
Yeah, makes sense. He's been saying that for a while.
Right. Now, like, player speak is who the hell knows, but he's saying that he's confident that he's going to play. We'll see. Sprained knee. You're right. How do we approach this? So, okay, a couple of things here. Then we'll get into the Saints after this, try and kind of come full circle. We'll build a lineup out as well. Trevor Lawrence, it's not that he's not like a mobile quarterback, but he actually is somebody that we've seen take off in the past. He's not, if you need to pick up 5 or 6 yards, he can do it, right? He's had what, 20 plus rushing yards in 4 of 6 games. He can move a little bit. He's not Lamar Jackson, but he can move. I wonder if that is limited here. We'll see. The weird thing is, like, I think Etienne probably has a tough time getting going in this matchup. But do you think that if Trevor Lawrence is somewhat limited, or if you're playing for him to be limited, that you would just kind of load up on Etienne? Like, what would your approach be? Would you, if you're building 20 lineups, would you build some lineups? Let's say Trevor Lawrence is in. Would you build some lineups working under the assumption that he isn't right and that he could struggle, and maybe just more Saints defense, maybe more ETN? Like what is the process here?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be building some lineups with some of that involved. I mean, if you think he's limited in any fashion, I think you should probably be downgrading his pass catchers, upgrading ETN, maybe just from a volume perspective. The matchup certainly isn't good for ETN, but extra volume can squash some of that. And then playing more Saints, as gross as that is. But in the event that Trevor Lawrence is limited, it probably just reduces the scoring of the overall game. Saints aren't going to be scoring a ton of points, or at least it's not likely that they do. And then if you have limited Lawrence, Jags probably aren't doing their part either. So maybe you start looking more at defenses, kickers, runners, cheap guys that can catch a couple passes here to get it done for you. But my main interest in that situation would be Kamara and ETN, just the runners in the game.
If Lawrence plays, do you think you'll have some lineups with him at captain?
Yeah, if he plays, I'm going to assume he's pretty good. Again, I don't think he's going to have the rushing equity, but as far as players with a ceiling in this game go, there's just not many of them. And some of the alternatives are connected to him. So it's like, if I think Lawrence is really hurt, like I'm not going to be playing Ridley, I'm not going to be playing Kirk. So immediately you're reduced to just a couple of options that look even halfway decent at captain. But if you think he's operating at even close to 100%, then I think it really opens the board for you. You can play him at captain, you can play his pass catchers. I'm going to treat this as if he's mostly healthy, unless we get news otherwise. It just doesn't make sense for me why he would play on a short week if he wasn't even at least somewhat close to being at full health.
You know what's tough about this team, though, is even if he is at full health or isn't, they spread the ball around so much, man. I mean, you look at the target share on this team this year. Christian Kirk, 23.5%. Calvin Ridley, 21. Evan Ingram, 21. Zay Jones is out, so I suppose that's helpful. He's a 16% target share, but he's played 3 games. So we've kind of seen what this offense looks like without him. Travis Etienne, low double-digit. He's actually seeing a decent amount of work in the passing game. Who knows if they get Jamal Agnew involved? There's just so many players and like actually decent players that they're throwing to. If you're somebody that's playing single entry 3 max, maybe only 5, how are you differentiating between these guys, especially when you look at the price points? I mean, Ridley and Kirk are essentially the same price. It's Ingram who you get that steep drop off in salary to, which I think, considering the fact I don't actually understand why Ingram is so much cheaper than these guys. I know that he hasn't had that explosive play upside yet, and he's still yet to find the touch or score. If there's one guy I like the most, given the salary, and let me pull up ownership because maybe it's just crazy different. Yeah. Okay. So what, 36%? He's getting less captain ownership than Ridley and Kirk. Matt, he's been targeted 7+ times in 5 straight. Listen to his targets since week 2, 8, 8, 8, 8, and 7, with receptions of 6, 7, 7, 4, and 7. He hasn't had the big game, but any of those games, you score a touchdown, which we know that they're unpredictable. It's one of the most unpredictable stats out there. Any one of those games outside of maybe week 5, you score a touchdown, you're basically at 20 fantasy points.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if the tools could talk, this would be the exact argument they would say. Ingram, highest leverage player on the slate, positive leverage that is, extremely leveraged in both the captain and the utility spot. I mean, his volume's just not that different compared to Ridley and compared to Christian Kirk to warrant this pricing gap. And if you're just getting into the mind of a DFS player, how many people are actually going to click Evan Ingram in the captain over Lawrence, Etienne, Kirk, and Ridley? I don't think it's going to be that many. So I actually think the tools maybe they're even underweighting where Ingram's captain ownership could come in at. There's a lot of alternatives on this slate. I'm not sure a lot of people make this click, but at the end of the day, I think the volume warrants it in this spot. And Lawrence is what he is at this point, and they're going to be throwing the ball regardless. I think Evan Ingram's completely fine. He's my favorite price adjusted pass catcher here. And aside from that, I think I would have to rank Ridley second just on a buy low. I think he is the more talented pass catcher here. Now only $400 separate him and Kirk. I anticipate Kirk comes in more owned.
Yeah, me too. It's also crazy that Ingram doesn't have a red zone target this year.
That'll change, right? Don't you think?
It has to.
Yeah.
Also, they haven't had that many, like, as far as red zone opportunities go. Who do you think leads the team in red zone targets?
So it's not somebody I would anticipate by the way you phrase that. I'm going to say ETN.
It's Zay Jones in 3 games.
Wow.
7 red zone targets, 3 inside the 10, 1 goal line target. Ridley has 6 red zone targets, 2 inside the 10, 1 at the goal line. Kirk has 3 in the red zone, 1 inside the 10. So, yeah, you haven't seen that many inside the 10 opportunities, really. There's no way that Evan Ingram, like a big-bodied tight end, a talented, athletic guy, there's no way that he just keeps going without no, I'm not. Do I love that? Certainly not. But I have a very difficult time believing that this guy doesn't get targeted in the red zone this year at all. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I do not think that persists.
And I know obviously Ridley coming in changes that a little bit, but you have to guess, and I'm just looking it up now, that last year he had a decent amount of opportunities in the red zone. And this is also a team that started off looking kind of terribly, and then he got worked in more and more as the season. Yeah, like he had a decent amount of opportunities in the red zone. Price adjusted, like you said, he looks the best. If you're just talking about ownership, leverage, all of this stuff, optimal probability, top play probability, who are your favorite pass catchers for the Jags today?
Yeah, in that order, I would rank them. Evan Ingram, number 1. Ridley would be number 2 for me. And then Christian Kirk would be 3. Honestly, I'm probably going to get 2 of the 3, or at least try to in most of my lineups. Anticipating Trevor Lawrence being close to full health. They're real separators on this slate if you're looking at pass catchers. When we start talking about the Saints, I don't have as much interest in them. A lot of it comes down to price and volume just combined. Third, Kirk, it's more of an ownership play. I think he's probably going to be the most owned pass catcher among these players. That's not to say he's not a bad play by any means. He's actually kind of operated as the wide receiver 1. And it's tough because all 3 of these guys have pretty significant positive leverage in our tools. Even Kirk, who we're anticipating to be pretty owned, he's still positively leveraged. It's the entire pass game here, or at least the main contributors, that you want to play into your lineups. And honestly, this might even come in under-owned. I'm not even sure. I don't have a good read on how the field is approaching this Lawrence injury yet. There's a chance that people are maybe just a little more scared of Lawrence and the pass catchers than normal circumstances. I don't know.
It's possible for sure. I think I don't know. I feel like if Lawrence does, it'd be stupid to play this guy if he wasn't 100%. But we've seen stupid decisions in the past. By the way, do you know Evan Ingram is essentially tied as the tight end 5 this year? That's how he hasn't scored a touchdown. He's the tight end 5.
What is he tied with Cole Kmet?
Yep. Well, it's 11.2 per game for Kmet, 11 for Ingram, but you get the point. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Essentially tied.
I thought I heard someone say Kmet was 5 too. So yeah.
Ingram or Kelsey 1, Andrews 2, Laporta 3, Hawkinson 4, Kmet 5. And I mean, that's what, like probably that 1 game for Cole Kmet that's putting him up there.
Yeah, we'll see how he does moving forward with Bajent. Maybe Evan Ingram moves ahead of him and becomes the clear 5.
No tight end in football has more receptions than Evan Ingram this year.
I've always liked Evan Ingram, man. He's a good pass catcher. Doesn't really do a lot blocking for you, but in this rendition of the Jags offense, they're using him like a receiver. Last game, they were up 12 personnel almost every play.
What do you make of Jamal Agnew today? He hasn't been targeted in back-to-back games, but Zay Jones is out. Jamal Agnew back earlier this season in week 3, 4 for 5, 49. Look, nothing about this is impressive. Don't get me wrong. And even with Zay Jones being sidelined, Jamal Agnew hasn't been involved. He did have 1 rushing attempt in week 5, but do you have any interest there at $400, almost minimum salary?
Kind of. I think there's other players I would rather get to above him, slightly more expensive. This team used Brenton Strange and Luke Farrell on 63 of 64 snaps last week. Jamal Agnew was out there for 20. This is essentially a 12 personnel team with Evan Ingram operating as a glorified wide receiver. He's got the tight end designation, but this is like Jasicki. This is like Kincaid. He's not playing tight end. He's playing receiver. And then Brenton Strange is a guy they spent pretty good draft capital on. Day 2 pick out of Penn State, good two-way tight end. Luke Farrell's out of Ohio State, another guy with pretty decent draft capital. They're just using these players over a wide receiver 3, which makes sense. I mean, they don't have any depth at this position. Jamal Agnew is a kick returner you're trying to turn into a wide receiver. From there, you've got Tim Jones and Elijah Cooks. Like, this receiver unit is very bad beyond the top end guys. So I'm not surprised they're doing this. But honestly, Brenton Strange, he had 3 targets in the last game. He's only a little bit more expensive than Jamal Agnew. I think I would rather play him, but it's very close. I don't feel strongly about this, and I likely will mix and match them tonight in multiple lineups.
We just got a tweet from Adam Schefter. Jaguars will work out quarterback Trevor Lawrence before tonight's game to determine whether or not he can play versus the Saints with his knee sprain. It could easily be a game time decision from the source. If Lawrence cannot play, CJ Beathard would start. We know that. Dude, this doesn't seem like something I want to. I hate this shit with one game. We can't just be like, all right, let's move on to the next one.
No, pretty greasy. Again, I think
it affects ownership if he does play. Now that he could be a real game time decision.
Yeah, I think if he does play, he's probably going to come in underowned. How many people are going to want to click Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, especially knowing that it's in a tough spot already. It's not like Arizona's going up against him.
Right.
What about Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, who, I mean, it's funny. Earlier in the season, it looked like Tank Bigsby was going to be the clear goal line back, get a lot of additional opportunities. He hasn't played much at all. Etienne has played 80+% of snaps in 3 straight games. He's the clear workhorse, the clear bell cow in that offense. If we do know one thing about this team, it's that from a snap share perspective, Etienne, Ridley, Kirk, Ingram, every single week they're playing 70 to 85% of snaps.
I think a lot of the Tank Bigsby shine wore when he fumbled, like immediately in his career. And if you fumble, a lot of these coaching staffs just aren't going to trust you. So I think that's kind of just the lingering effects. They've had Etienne on the roster for a while. He's a guy you can put out there and trust in every situation. So Bigsby, he's had a role somewhat on the goal line situationally, but I don't know if this changes anytime soon. And it makes Etienne one of the best price-adjusted plays on the slate. If you think the quarterback plays limited for Jacksonville, he becomes an even better play. They've just been riding this guy into the ground. When they throw to running backs, he's involved in that game script as well. Definitely not an easy matchup. But again, we're running into lack of alternatives. Would you rather play like Derek Carr? Would you rather play a pass catcher for Jacksonville, maybe without Lawrence? Or I'm certainly not interested in playing a lot of these Saints pass catchers with Derek Carr at the helm. So, I mean, you're kind of running into Etienne and Kamara as maybe the 2 top plays if we think Lawrence is limited or out. I don't love the matchup, but man, it's just really hard to get away from the surefire volume Etienne's going to get.
Absolutely. And, if you just look at touch leaders this season, Etienne has more touches than any other running back in the league.
That's wild. I would not have projected that coming into the year.
Yeah, more than anyone in the league. That's a lot. 134 touches across 6 games. If nothing, like, this is the spot where you kind of, I don't know. Just looking at the top price guys, what if we broke it down like this? If you're looking at, by the way, I don't understand how Alvin Kamara is more expensive than Travis Etienne, but that's a conversation for some other time. We can get into it. If you're looking at all of the top guys, and that's not to say that Alvin Kamara, with his insane workload, I think Alvin Kamara in the games that he's played actually leads. He leads the league in touches per game in the 3 games that he's played. So you have 2 clear workhorse running backs at the top. They're the 2 highest priced options on the slate. Do you have a preference between the 2? Like, or can we just play 2? Maybe we play 2 of them and assuming Trevor Lawrence maybe isn't 100%, and knowing your disdain for Derek Carr, justifiable disdain for Derek Carr, maybe this is a spot where a lot of lineups, our two pay-ups are actually at the running back position.
I absolutely think you can pay up for these guys. I have a slight preference for Kamara. I think he's independent of game script. Like, this receiving role he has is bananas. He has 23 catches over the last 3 games. Just unbelievable work in the pass game.
23 catches on 24 targets.
Yeah, I mean, this is nuts. Nuts. If ETN gets, I guess if the Jags get down in this game, ETN has a good pass catching workload, but man, it's not even like 25% of this Kamara workload. It's crazy. So yeah, you forced me to pick one guy. I would choose Alvin Kamara. You mentioned before the show the Jamal Williams thing. I don't think Jamal Williams plays, and they haven't really had much interest in using Kendre Miller. The rest of the guys on their team are scrubs. I don't like Alvin Kamara comes back from suspension. This guy's just given the keys to the city. I don't see why they changed that now, especially with their quarterback play being inept.
Yeah, and we agreed. I think we both probably expect Jamal Williams to come back next week after getting, 11, 12 more days off.
Yeah. He's been limited in practice. I mean, to your point, got a mini bye week after this.
The reason I say I'm surprised that Kamara is more expensive is because DraftKings so often just prices guys based off fantasy points. Like, not on volume. Hell, look at Evan Ingram, basically seeing as many targets as Kirk and as Ridley per game. But yeah, the workload, and by the way, it's not just like Alvin Kamara is getting work through the air and not on the ground. Last week, he had 19 carries and 8 targets. That's 27 looks. He had 22 carries against New England, 3 targets, didn't need to use him in the passing game. And then in that loss to Tampa Bay in his first game back, only 11 attempts, but 14 targets. Like, he's essentially a lock for 20 to 26 looks per game. This could be a disgusting, low-scoring game, and Alvin Kamara gets there on volume alone. Like, utter lack of efficiency, Matt, and still gets there at like 18 fantasy points with 90 or 80 total yards. You could honestly see that happening. He had 84 total yards in week 4 and 21 fantasy points without scoring a touchdown.
Yeah, he caught 13 passes. That is 13 PPR points that exclude efficiency.
For 33 yards.
It was a historic low in the NFL. Nobody has had a lower yards per catch on that volume.
I know. Of course not. Of course not, dude. He averaged, what's that, like 2.7 yards per reception or something?
He's breaking records for being bad. And it's not him, it's Derek Carr.
It's so bad. Anyway, anything else for the Jags that you want to get into here? And tune in to Live Before Lock. We'll have that news on Trevor Lawrence, but I think this is still a good way to set it up. It's also possible, again, that Trevor Lawrence does play, and everything we're saying right now is still true because he might not be at 100%. So anything else you have for the Jags?
Not much. Again, I think they're going to be largely a 12 personnel team. Brenton Strange and Luke Farrell are the inline tight ends. Last week on 34 snaps, Strange had 10 routes. Farrell on 29 snaps had 9 routes. So these very much blockers, but they play a ton. They essentially are using 12 personnel on like 80% of their snaps. So they're going to get some pass routes at very cheap prices. They're just names you need to know. Then beyond Agnew, this team gave 5 routes to Tim Jones, 3 to Elijah Cooks. Those would just be like 200,000 entries or more. Maybe you sprinkle those guys in, but that's about it.
Okay. In chat, we had a comment from Colin, said Vegas seems to think ETN won't have much success either. Listen, it's a good defense for the Saints. There's no doubt about it. But we only have one game to choose from as well. And ETN's workload has just been insane. I mean, Matt, you know this as well as anybody. Volume is king, no matter what. Like, volume is more important than anything else in this league. Like, you could play a Marvin Mims and hope that he has two receptions on the 7 routes that he runs and they go for 50 yards apiece. Or you could hope that one of Travis Etienne's 23 touches breaks one loose. Like, it's kind of the way it goes. Anyway, we had a comment in chat earlier, a question asking if you sign up for Owner's Box without the link, can you get the free week of Stochastic Sims tool? No, but all you have to do is use the link. Like, just click the link, or it's already in the description. Jordan, you can throw it in the chat as well. You're getting all of our tools for the entirety of the week. It's that simple. There's no add-ons necessary. It's not like, oh, nice, I got a free week. Wait, now I need to get this in order to build lineups. No. Our contest generator is in there. The lineup simulator, pre and post contest, the lineup generator, all of our tools, ownership, player projections, top stack tool, boom bust tool, the incredible, best out there, top single game and showdown plays tool. There's nothing out there in the industry like this. Premium Discord, everything, every single tool we have for showdown, for main slate, for afternoon, all of these obscure slates. You know what I mean? All of these like turbo slates, the lineup simulator will run lineups for them, filter them out, give you the best lineups, everything. All you do is sign up on Owner's Box using the link in the description or in chat. You don't need a promo, just a link. Deposit minimum $10. Although, as always, I'd recommend, if you have the means to do so, take advantage of their first match deposit bonus of $500 because that's huge. They have huge super flex contests for, you know, a smaller site for the main slate. We had a guy use our Sims tool, win the showdown slate just last Monday using our Sims tool for Owner's Box showdown slate. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, we have Owner's Box built into the Sims tool and ownership and player projections, all that stuff. And the overlay there has been huge. Like, they're not filling right now. The dead money in there is significant enough to say, you know what, I'll take a stab at that. But you do it on a Thursday like today. Here's, in my opinion, the biggest part of all of it. You do it at today. You're getting Thursday night football. You're getting Sunday main slate, afternoon, Sunday showdown. These showdown prize pools are huge. You're getting Monday showdown and you're getting next Thursday, not including the turbos. That's 6 slates right there. When you're taking advantage of free weeks of subscriptions anywhere, even if it's not us, make sure you're smart and you take advantage of it on the days where you're going to get all of the weeks or all of the slates, because you don't have Tuesday football. You don't have Wednesday football. You don't, you know, so do that. Get in. Link in the description and in chat if you haven't done so yet. Owner's Box, $10 minimum deposit, free week of all of our tools over for NFL at stochastic.com. All right, Matt, let's talk about the Saints. Here's a mess. So, Alvin Kamara, do we really need to dive much more into this? Like, he's a phenomenal play. He's a great captain play. The volume is massive. Is there anything else we need to talk about with Alvin Kamara?
I don't think so. I think that about sums it up with him.
Now we have to talk about the pass catchers. We also have to talk about Taysom Hill, who's coming off an 8 target. So Jordan, what are you laughing at? Oh, like Boston style? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I misspoke. Okay. Glad you got a rise out of that. Anyway, pass catchers for New Orleans. They're not cheap. Chris Olave, you said wasting away. It's such a shame because this guy is an immense talent. I will say, I think you're exaggerating when you say
I definitely am.
Because he does have 4 double-digit target games. He has, to your point, though, he could, with a decent quarterback, be having like 30-plus fantasy point games. And on a main slate, we'd be talking about a, $85,000, $9,000 player. Derek Carr, let's put it this way. Derek Carr's holding him back from his true potential, but he's still putting up pretty respectable numbers.
That's the perfect way to put it. I agree wholeheartedly. And on a single game slate, we need to talk about them both due to lack of alternatives. On main slates, unless Derek Carr's priced near the stone, man, I generally don't have a lot of interest in him. But our tools tell the whole story. My biases aside, he's still a positively leveraged player in both the captain and the flex. A lot of people are going to want to click the Jacksonville guys, especially if we get positive Lawrence news. But I think ETN is a player who's going to come in more owned. You're going to have Kamara come in more owned. Jacksonville pass catchers, maybe. good Lawrence news. I'm not alone in this Derek Carr opinion. Like, he's just not a dynamic player, but he plays the quarterback position in the NFL. He touches the ball every single play. It leads to a lot of volume. The matchup's not particularly hard. You could see a path for a Derek Carr ceiling game, whether you think he's a talented player or not. So he immediately needs to be considered there. And then his wide receiver one is Chris Olave. Best volume on the team, not even close. Most talented pass catcher on the team as well. He's also positively leveraged for us. So, I mean, these are two guys we definitely need to consider. And I think with the Lawrence news, if that breaks the wrong way, we should be playing even more of these two.
Michael Thomas has been interesting to me all season long. Now, I know you're not getting a massive discount on him. However, I still, I've watched some of these games. And to your point, a lot of what we're seeing out of Michael Thomas isn't really Michael Thomas's fault. The problem is that when Michael Thomas pre-injury, so I don't know, what was I, like 15 years old? He was, dude, he's been hurt a lot.
Yeah, he's missed like most of the last 3 years.
But the problem is, I still think he's pretty good. I still think he's pretty good. However, the problem, there wasn't a Chris Olave on this team. There wasn't a Chris Olave. Like, there wasn't another really good receiver. It was all Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara for the last couple of seasons that he played. I still think Michael Thomas has a pretty decent floor. Like, that's one thing you could say about Michael Thomas in this game. And here's where I'm going to take you on a little journey here and get you thinking about this one a little differently. Maybe you guys in chat as well. Get your thoughts, Matt. So Michael Thomas, the price point obviously is not perfect. You'd love if he was around 6K or something like that. He hasn't had any great games at all. He hasn't had a game above 12 fantasy points. He hasn't had a game below 9 fantasy points. The range of outcomes, seriously, every game he's had has been between 9 and 12 fantasy points this season. That's nuts, okay? Especially considering he's played 6 already. But he's been targeted quite frequently, 8, 9, 9, 6, 7, 8. We know that he's not a deep threat. He did have that one near the pylon that he came down, beautiful grab back in like week 3 or whatever. What if this is just a terribly ugly, low-scoring game and Michael Thomas ends up with like 7 for 80 and you need to get there because it's a low, ugly scoring game, and he's the type of guy that when targeted by a bad quarterback like Derek Carr is going to get the ball because he's running slant routes.
I actually like Michael Thomas a lot more than I thought I would before I dove into this slate and broke it down. Only 6 fewer targets than Chris Olave this year. He's the possession receiver. Yeah, you can look at things like air yards. They favor Olave, and that makes sense. Olave is the more expensive receiver. But I honestly think Michael Thomas might be more involved around the red zone. He has 6 red zone targets to Olave's 4. And then, I mean, he's a short area guy. The volume between these two in this area of the field's not vastly different. The team doesn't make a lot of red zone trips to begin with. But I mean, to your point, if he falls in the end zone on top of that, like 6 to 80, and that's the only red zone trip they take, or maybe they score in other ways, that's extremely valuable on a low scoring slate. So the volume is very close to Chris Olave. That's enough for me to like him. I think price adjusted, I might honestly prefer Michael Thomas, dude. Like you say, $2,000. That can get you up to another stud, and there's plenty of them on the Jags I like. I might be playing more Michael Thomas than Olave tonight, as crazy as that is.
No, he's really not a bad play at all. Like I said, has he been good? No. I also don't know how much of that is his fault. Like, this is a team that their red zone efficiency has to be dog shit this year, right? It can't be good. Right? It can't be good. Hold on.
No, this team sucks, man.
Hold on. Let's see red zone scoring percentage. This is touchdown only. Miami's at 81%.
That's an unbelievable mark.
Saints are at 36.8%. That's 28th in the league. You know who's worse? Tennessee, New York Giants, New York Jets, and Pittsburgh. So yeah, they're not an efficient red zone team. And when you're a guy like Michael Thomas, where are your touchdowns generally coming from? The red zone. You know, that's an issue. He's not breaking off many 80-yard touchdowns. I still like him though. I still like him. I wanted to pull one more thing up before we keep going here. I'll say one thing, Matt. As gross, or as you would say, as greasy as this game is, it's kind of fun to break down because like you have so many different variations of how this could go, especially now that Alvin Kamara has been back and Rashid Shaheed is pretty good. Okay, so here's your target share since week 4, since Alvin Kamara returned. At the top, Alvin Kamara, 29%. That obviously last week was weird, but yeah, last week was real weird. Why do they not have? Oh man, what the hell is this crap? Why is Michael Thomas not showing up? I can't even give you anything because Michael Thomas, something's broken here and it's not even showing up. Whatever, you get my point. Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, they're going to get the majority. And then Rashid Shaheed, you get some. Who knows what Taysom Hill's going to get. So once we get past Kamara and once we get past Thomas and Chris Olave, what are we doing with guys like Taysom Hill and Rashid Shaheed?
Man, Rashid Shaheed's been pretty involved. Surprisingly. Yeah. He's been awesome. He just like moves at a different speed out there, man. At first, I thought he was going to be sort of your one trick pony deep threat. Basically, the guy they wanted Traquan Smith to be for all those years. But man, for a guy coming out of a small school, he's really developed into something. His targets are pretty decent too. They're coming up, just 27 on the year. But I think when you start isolating the recent games, they look much better for Shaheed. He is coming off a pretty decent game overall, but 5K still providing positive leverage. I think you want to be mixing and matching all of these main New Orleans pass catchers as well. They're just not expensive enough on this slate, particularly Shaheed and Michael Thomas. And to your point on this being a nice slate overall, I love showdown slates. I like them when they're greasy games like this. But on this particular slate, you've got a lot of options. Assuming Lawrence is relatively healthy, there's maybe like 7 captains I want exposure to. And then we have multiple guys near the stone min. It is just a great slate to mix and match your exposure and play multiple lineups if that's something you're into. And that includes these receivers. I want lineups with Thomas, Shaheed, all of the New Orleans pass catchers. And to rank them, I guess, is probably the best way to do this. I prefer Michael Thomas 1, price adjusted. Then I would go to Olave. 3rd would be Shaheed, but it's very close between the 3.
Okay. So where would you put Alvin Kamara amongst that, though? Like, I almost feel like we have to do. Okay. I kind of feel like we have to put Alvin Kamara in those same rankings in a way, you know?
Yeah, you're right.
Is there? What were you going to say?
His volume is just so. Would you put him number 1? I wanted to ask you what your ranking would be of those same 4.
It would be Kamara, Thomas. What's Shaheed's price?
5K.
I think I'd go Shaheed over Olave.
Yeah, I had a tough time with that because you can't play them all.
No, you can't. And by the way, I screwed up. I figured out what I was still on 2022 for the Saints. That's why I couldn't find Michael Thomas. So here's your target share since Alvin Kamara returns. Since week 4. You'll appreciate this. And this is more of what I expected. Kamara still at the top, 23%. Michael Thomas and Chris Olave both at 19.3%. Both of them have 21 targets in the last 3 games. Rashid Shaheed at 14%. That's actually not that bad. If you're talking about, 3 other guys at or around 20%. And then Hill at 9%, Foster Moreau at 7%. Yeah, it's Kamara, Thomas, Olave, Rashid Shaheed. I don't want to read too much into Taysom Hill, but he's there. Since Kamara returned, though, you have seen Chris Olave's role, and maybe some of that is game script dependent. We saw the weird game against New England, but it is dipped off a little bit for sure. It's those 3 guys. That's how I would rank them. How are you ranking guys or how are you playing guys like Taysom Hill? He's your standard backup quarterback price that we always see. You know how we always fall into this dead range when you and I hand build a lineup at the end of the show? That's pretty much where he is. And then Juwan Johnson is out still. He hasn't played since, I think, week 3. Does Foster Moreau appeal to you at all?
He appeals a little bit. There's one concern I have with the Saints coming off last week. They ran 82 plays, 82 offensive plays. That's nuts, and way higher than Derek Carr typically throws the ball. They had 57 dropbacks. And among those, it makes the raw numbers look pretty good for guys like Michael Thomas, Olave, Rashid Shaheed. But Rashid Shaheed, 62 of 82 snaps. Taysom Hill, 49 of 82 snaps. You go in and you look at where Taysom Hill played. Spent 13 snaps in line. That makes sense with a tight end designation. But 25 came in the slot, 7 came out wide. That doesn't just affect Rashid Shaheed. But I think when you're looking at these guys and Taysom Hill's on the field as much as he is, it cannibalizes all of the New Orleans pass catchers a little bit. To your point, Taysom Hill's priced up, so he's going to be a pay up to be contrarian type play. I don't think he sees another 8 targets like he did last week. But man, 1 for 1, I would rather play the Jacksonville pass catchers, I think, than the Saints. You have considerable downside to some of these ancillary receivers. You just don't have that on the Jacksonville side. The main concern there is just the Lawrence stuff. But that's also another reason why I like Kamara more than the receivers. Taysom Hill is siphoning off work, and they're playing Taysom Hill not just as a tight end. Again, 25 snaps in the slot, 7 out wide. He only played 57. That's a ton of snaps that cannibalize wide receivers. As far as Moreau goes, they use him on the field with Taysom Hill. He had a pretty good snap share. 39 out of 82 snaps, 15 routes, so he's not just a blocker. I think he's fine at his price, but again, I'd rather find my way up to a guy like Kamara or down to some other cheap guys than Moreau. Saints are pretty tough to parse.
We're going to build a lineup, but are there any other dirt cheap options we haven't talked about? And whether the question is yes or no, can you rank the guys that aren't in this like mid to upper tier? So we already know Ingram, Ridley, Kirk, ETN, Lawrence, Kamara, god damn dude, Olave, Thomas, Carr. I guess you could even throw Shaheed in. Like, are there any punts we haven't talked about? And how would you rank the punts? Because I know we're going to have to play some of them today.
Yeah, we are for sure. Just some names to keep in mind for the Saints, really cheap guys. Kendre Miller is going to play some, not a ton, but I think he does play more than like Tank Bigsby. Keith Kirkwood, 15 snaps. Jimmy Graham, 14 snaps, but the Saints tight end usage has been variant. Like Jimmy Graham has been a full-time player in some games and then non-existent in others. He's very volatile, but you could run into like a 35 snap Jimmy Graham game and no one would bat an eye. Then Lynn Bowden played 9, but again, they ran 82 plays last game, so some of these guys just had to get on the field because they were playing a ton. As far as ranking the really cheap guys goes, do you want me to include the Jacksonville guys too?
Yeah.
I think number 1 for me would be Brenton Strange for Jacksonville. He's 1,000, so he kind of gets you towards the bottom end, but he's playing a ton with Jacksonville being almost full 12 personnel. 2 and 3, I'd go to the backup backs. Kendry would be ahead of Tank Bigsby. For me, I would put Foster Moreau 4 if we're willing to go that expensive. Then once you get way down there, we'll start including guys like Jamal Agnew. I don't really think I want to go any cheaper than that, to be honest.
Okay. So I am currently running the Sims, and I figure this would be helpful for you guys before Matt and I actually build out a lineup. So what I'm doing, Matt, is just to see where we're at right now in the Sims tool. I know if some of you guys have the Sims tool, you know how this works. We can explain a little bit better how it works for you as well. So Jordan, I'm throwing up I'm just screenshotting this to you because if you ran it, you're going to get different results. So we can just throw these screenshots up there. You could have run it, but I'm just doing this on the fly. I'm sending you also our exposures. I favored it 150, so don't worry about it. If you guys aren't playing 150, no big deal. But I'm going to favorite 150 of these and just see what our captain and flex exposures look like, Matt. I think it'll be kind of interesting to see where we land on some of these. My guess, actually, you know what? We don't need to guess. We'll just see for ourselves. Jordan, I just sent those over to you. I may have doubled one, but you'll see captain, flex, and then there's lineups. Before we do, guys, we have almost 550 people watching with us. Just reminding you, I'm sure there are some of you who are in these 6 states. All right, listen up. You might be new to this channel. Maybe not. Maybe you've been on the fence about this. I don't know why you would be. But if you're in Colorado, Virginia, New Jersey, Ohio, Iowa, or Kentucky, and you're not at Bet365 yet, by the way, we got news. They are coming to 3 new states very shortly. Keep an eye out for yours. You're getting $150 when you bet $5. If you're in Kentucky, you're getting $365 when you bet $1. I know you guys will be in chat talking shit on Kentucky. I saw it the other day. Just mad that you're not getting $365 free dollars from Bet365. But in all seriousness, you don't need to win the bet. You do not need to win the bet. I say just go late, put a decent parlay down, even if it's a same game parlay for tonight. Because if you win, now you just bolster the hell out of your bankroll and you get 150 or $365. If you lost, what does it matter? You lost $5 on a $10 deposit. You use the link in the description. Use the link in the chat. Click it, sign up. All right. It takes you, no joke, 2 minutes to sign up. You could do it on the can, firing one off. Make your time, make every minute of your life useful, even when you're doing something like that. Sign up, deposit, verify yourself takes 2 minutes. So if you're in those 5 states, that's what, $75 a minute, $150 in 2 minutes just to put any bet down that you want that you probably would have bet anyway. If you're in Kentucky, you deposit $10, you bet $1 of those $10, 10% of it. 10%, get $365, win or lose. Matt, you take advantage of free money whenever the books throw it at you, and now you have other books to shop around and make sure you're not getting burned by the hook. It's the best promo out there, for hands down. I don't think there's an argument around that.
Yeah, I mean, people are trying to give you extra money to play on their sites. It's a complete no-brainer. Just don't think about it too much. You're sports betting anyway. They're trying to give you free money. And plus, then you get the luxury of shopping multiple books. You should be trying to find the best line anyway. This is a no-brainer.
Link in the description and in chat if you want to get that. $150 on a $5 bet, $10 deposit. If you're in Colorado, Ohio, Virginia, New Jersey, and Iowa, Kentucky, deposit $10, bet $1, get $365. Must be 21 years or older to gamble, 18 plus in Kentucky. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Even if you're calling and saying, well, it's somebody I know, my friend, you know how it works. All right, let's pull these sims up. Jordan, I gave you some screenshots. Matt, I haven't even looked at them yet. So if you want to pull up, you have YouTube open?
Yes.
All right. So Jordan's got them up there. Maximize your screen. Let's see what we have. Let's go with the lineups first. Okay, Jordan, let's go with the lineups that we're getting first. See what these look like. So these are the highest simulated ROI lineups. Then we'll build one out. We don't have a show right after this, right? Because, okay, no baseball show today. Michael Thomas, captain, Derek Carr, Evan Ingram, Rashid Shaheed, Travis Etienne, Trevor Lawrence. God, I love that lineup. I don't know how chalky that's going to be. But, oh, by the way, I ran this for a 5,000 field contest and 10% payout to first. So this is not for a milli maker. This would be more for like a midfield single entry contest.
I think it makes sense. I don't think it's going to be too heavily owned. You have Michael Thomas at captain and instead one of the big studs. So maybe that's your main leverage point there.
And no Kamara.
No Kamara. Well, we did just get news Jamal Williams is playing. So.
Oh, shit. That actually concerns me a little bit. They clearly brought him in to be, who was it last year? I can't even never remember.
Mark Ingram.
Was it Ingram? Yeah, I almost said Latavius Murray.
Well, if you're New Orleans and you already signed an inefficient quarterback, you definitely need an inefficient runner to slam into the back of the O-line too.
David Montgomery's so much better than Jamal Williams.
Yeah, it's wild. I was not a big fan of David Montgomery. Honestly, I think that was just me jaded by his career with the Bears.
He's not bad.
No, he's better than I thought. I got to admit my L.
He's also the type of guy that when you give him the ball, he's picking up at least a few. And I love those type of running backs. I love over the guys that lose 5-8 times in a row and then break one once in a while. Yeah. Michael Thomas, second highest simmed ROI captain with Kamara, McManus, Carr, Evan Ingram, Trevor Lawrence. Ingram, Kamara, Ridley, Kirk, Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence. Are you changing? Like, would you expect the projection for Kamara to change dramatically? What do you think?
It's definitely going to change. I don't think dramatically, but he's going to come down. Yeah. He was already negatively leveraged for us, which was shocking to me, but now he's without a doubt going to be negatively leveraged.
Let's look at flex exposures real quick. Because I got captain exposures too. All right. Lawrence, Thomas, Kamara, Carr, all basically 50%. I'm okay with it's. This is interesting because you and I talked about Michael Thomas and Evan Ingram being good plays there at their price points. And it appears that the Sims are giving us essentially what you and I were talking about for the past hour.
That's good. It makes me reaffirm my process a little bit. Hopefully that remains the case throughout the day.
Yeah. 30% Olave. This is on 150 starred lineups. Obviously, I said this would be like run for a 10% payout, but I wanted to give you guys like actual, see what the real exposure across a bunch of lineups looks like. 42% Ingram, 36 ETN, and then captain ownership. Michael Thomas, Carr, Kirk, Kamara. That's interesting. We're getting 14% Christian Kirk at captain and less in the utility.
That's really surprising to me.
Yeah.
That's the biggest surprise so far that you've said so to date. I'm not sure why that would be.
Yeah, because only like 4.7 Ingram at captain, 4.7 ETN at captain. Huh. All right. So a decent amount. You know what? Maybe do we have Kirk projected for a lot of ownership?
We have pretty good Kirk projection.
Yeah, I guess we do. We haven't positively leveraged at captain, though, so I guess that makes sense. We have Thomas very positively leveraged at captain, so that makes sense as well. You want to build a lineup before we get out of here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I think I'm up.
You are.
I'll go. You know what? I'm going to go Michael Thomas. Let's ride with the Sims here. I'll throw Michael Thomas at captain. Plus, I actually don't mind that at all here, especially if it's a low-scoring game.
Yeah, I don't mind it either. Only 6 fewer targets than Olave. I'm going to throw in ETN.
Okay. And the same amount of targets over the last 3 weeks since Kamara returned.
Yes, sir.
You want ETN? All right. Should we try a Thomas ETN Kamara lineup?
Yeah, let's see what we can get.
Try it?
We still have 6K left over and some change.
We're fine.
Per position, yeah. So then we're going to need to free up some salary.
You could.
Sorry.
I said you could go Ingram here, but go wherever you want.
I am going to go Ingram. That's a good call.
Do we want a quarterback?
It's not hard to get one.
It's not at all. I'm going to go, you know what? I'm going to go with Derek Carr here.
All right. So that puts us in the kicker defense range and backup running back range.
This
so
actually isn't terrible.
No, it's not. I'm not going to play Kendrick Miller anymore with Jamal Williams back. We actually can play Jamal Williams if we want. I want to see what his reports are throughout the day and his workload, but I honestly don't hate going him. Otherwise, Foster Moreau, I think, is a pretty nice addition in this range.
Okay. How would you feel about going with, we can't get the Saints defense there, so that would be tough. Foster Moreau, okay.
I don't mind the Jags defense either. I mean,
me neither.
Completely fine with the Jags defense.
Me too. Hey, follow Matt at Matt_Gajewski on Twitter. GAJEWSKI. Me at Laffy_D, LOUGHY_D. Hey, as always, guys, appreciate you spending the morning with us here. I'm going to go record a betting video for tonight's game. This should be fun with the Trevor Lawrence news. Matt's got a ton of stuff already on the Odd Shopper channel, ton of college football stuff. His betting you stuff with Ben has been incredible. Highly recommend you check all that stuff out. Check out our Odd Shopper channel, everything betting, any sport you can think of. And I'll be back with Eric Lindquist at 11. So 56 minutes for the marathon matchup show, 10-game main slate. Join us there if you're not doing anything. Until then, we'll see you back here live before lock tonight. Little showdown action. We'll take you up to lock at 8:15. Later, guys. Thanks.